In today's video, we find ourselves in the test server to try to find out if the June fusion, there's been a lot of anticipation on this guy, THOLIN FOULBEARD, if he's worth the hype, if he's max, and where is he able to deal damage, and basically if it's a fusion worth going for or not. Let's have a look at it. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another raid video. In this case, we are in the test server. Plarium gave us the test server during the weekend and a bit more, but we've had a pretty long and tight embargo on showing this guy. We weren't able to show anything about him until today, which is the same day that the fusion starts. So let's have a look at basically what is he capable of, where is he gonna shine the most, how do we gear him, why, and where can we see him playing. First of all, let's have a look at the stats. Let's see what do these skills do. Here we have him, THOLIN FOULBEARD. In terms of like the skin, it's also been super secretive. I'm not entirely sure why. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, yeah, it's a cool armor with horns and fire and the head of some demon spawn dude here just chopped at the back, but other than that, I mean, there's nothing super crazy about it. The stats, not bad. It's a pretty standard nuker. Has a pretty high attack though. I mean, to be honest, 1674, it's on the upper end of champions attack for pretty much all champions, but of course, because it's a damage dealer, they all kind of fall in the same category of glass cannon, so it's going to be pretty soft, pretty weak. Only 14,000 HP and not even a 1,000 defense. 100 speed, pretty standard, and then a bit of crit damage and resistance and accuracy is pretty standard in general. Typical glass cannon, probably he's going to be able to deal quite a lot of damage, but he's very weak. This weakness, he counters it with a passive that basically tells us that enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses and minions cannot land the critical hit on this champion. Who are the Corrupted Alliance? So it happens to be an alliance of 4 factions, the Demon Spawn, the Undead, the Dark Elves, and the Knights Revenants, which all of these 4 factions have pretty good champions. I mean, you see a lot of in arenas, you see Carnage, Comidus, you see Volcanoes, you see Crutraxa, well, a bit less Crutraxas, Cheshire Cat, Lilithus. I mean, you see champions from here, from the Undead as well. You see a lot of Fabians, you see a lot of Ryu DKs, Rotos. I mean, there's a lot of people here. Calamitus also, I've seen some Calamitus on the base form that really smack. Dark Elves, not really. I mean, you don't see many of these in Arena. It's not the best faction for Arena. But for example, here you do see both Mythicals, you see Arex every now and then. We see Narcissus, we see Queen of Hearts, we see Ancora, we see Hydra. I mean, it's 4 factions. It's an alliance in this case with quite a lot of meta champions, quite a lot of powerful champions. So none of these are going to be able to crit hit on him, which is going to reduce in a big amount the amount of damage we receive. Other than that, his kit we've already seen in the previous video, but basically on A1 that is able to apply weaken. He doesn't need accuracy to apply this weaken if he's hitting the enemies from that faction, and if we apply weaken to all the enemies, we will get an extra turn. With this extra turn, even if we try to do A1 again, this A1 will try to place the weaken, but it's not going to replace the weaken because it's going to be already a 2-turn weaken, which if the debuff you're trying to apply is equal or better than the one the enemy champion already has, it's not going to override it. So we're going to use A1, it's going to have an extra turn, but the idea is to use another skill because the A1 is not going to give us further extra turns. The A2 is actually pretty surprising, because basically attacks 2 times. Every hit, if he's attacking enemies from the corrupted champion, is gonna ignore 50% defense. If it's not one of champion from one of these alliance, is only gonna ignore 25% of the defense, and On top of that, it's going to slowly decrease the target's attack by 5%, and it's also going to slowly increase our attack by 5%. We can stack up to a 50% extra attack just for free and reduce up to a 25% attack on the enemy for free. This is really cool, and we're gonna see a bit how this interacts, because basically in the beginning it doesn't hit super hard, but the more rounds and the further the fight develops, you are gonna see that he's gonna start hitting harder and harder, and this skill actually hits very hard. And then finally, an A3 that is also has certain mechanics, certain quirk. We attack an enemy 2 times. First, we increase attack on himself, so he's gonna hit extra hard because of that. We hit with the first, there's 2 hits, we hit the first time, and for each critical on this first hit, the second hit is gonna deal that 10% extra damage. For example, if there's 4 enemies, we attack 4 enemies. If we land critical hit in all 4 enemies, the second hit is going to deal a 40% more attack. If we only do 2 critical hits, it's going to deal 20% more attack, and so on, okay? So pretty easy to understand, pretty easy kit, doesn't need accuracy, it just hits, damage, crit rate, speed, and pretty much that's it. And it will also ignore Unkillable and Shield, which is always for free, it's always good to have. But in a sense, it's a very similar champion to something like Thor. Thor is, again, I'd say Thor is slightly better because he has more hits, more AoE, and better multipliers in his skills, but it's essentially the same thing. Well, actually, he kind of needs accuracy, but he buffs himself with also crit damage. Then we also have AoE hits. Here we have the chance to repeat the attack several times, and also has a passive. In this case, Thor, every time he hits 10 times, he will just do a free attack. And with THOLIN, what we're gonna have is every 5th turn of THOLIN, he's gonna unleash an A1. Activates Demon Breaker. Every 5th turn this champion takes. So he's gonna do an A1 for free every now and then. Let's take him. Well, let's see him first. I'll show you how I have gear him. I have it like the most basic build. The most basic build is 0 stars. Basic in terms of it's not fully ascended, doesn't have a crazy mythical relic. I try to keep it reasonable. I know other content creators, they show like straight out of the box, full max everything with crazy stats, and of course he's gonna smack everything's max with these stats. I'm showing you a THOLIN. Probably these 2 would be questionable, these 2 mythical gems, but other than that, it's a pretty standard set. I haven't even gone for like a 6-piece Merciless, which for example I could have gone like called Merciless, yeah, like Rotos. Probably this set 9-piece Merciless would be the best set for him. Even we could go with something like Lethal, that could also work pretty nice on him, in case you don't have 9-piece Merciless. But I went even a step further with just simple and basic Savage set. Of course, has good stats. We're all here to try to figure out, is this champion going to be able to deal a lot of damage or not? But as you can see, crit rate, crit damage, over here attack and attack, here attack and attack, maybe slightly slow. Could go faster, but if you choose to go with attack boots, then chances are that you're gonna have a quite slow champion. But other than that, it's not fully ascended, no mythical relic plus maximum. In terms of blessing, doesn't have a blessing. Probably the best blessing for him, depending on the amount of stars you have, would go for, if you have it 6 stars, Crushing Rend is the way to go. If you don't have Crushing Rend, probably Nature's Wrath could be pretty interesting, because we're going to be applying Weaken, so this is going to be slowly increasing, and even Cruelty is another good option. Okay, so that will be probably the top 3 blessings. Phantom Touch could also work. In terms of relics, I put the Cat's Gaze, but we could go for Wand of Submission. Nah, probably not. Maybe this. Heretic Coronet is probably a pretty useful one. Stormcaller, also a pretty powerful one. This, we've seen it. If you don't have Malefic Talon, also good one to go as well. Essence Quencher also viable on him. I mean, there's a lot of options that you can use on this guy. This one, for example, Hammer of Ending, also pretty useful. There's a lot of different ones depending on which one is the best, or which one is the best that between the ones you have. And other than that, these will be the final stats: 7,500, capping crit rate, 311 crit damage, and like I said, slightly slow, accuracy and resistance he doesn't need. And with these stats and these masteries, is obvious the Helm Smasher is a damage dealer. We want to ignore as much defense as possible, so here we might have a 25%. Plus a 25% of the set, of the Savage set, it will be a 50%, which if we add up this 25% here, or if the enemy is from the Corrupted Alliance, we get up to 100%. And in case we don't get to 100%, that's why I'm using here the Cat's Gaze, because A1 and A3 don't ignore defense, so this is just extra ignore defense, extra damage. So with these stats, with this setup and what I've just shown you, in terms of damage, I always test them on the same place, stage 23. Let's see how he hits. We start with an increased attack, decreased defense and weaken. I mean, again, this is a regular standard scenario. I'm not trying to find out, is he the best damage dealer hitter in the whole raid, putting here a lot of different champions that increase his damage. No, I'm not trying to do that because that's unrealistic. These three champions is more or less realistic. So let's go, for example, with an A3. Here we're going to see two hits. The first one is going to be weaker than the second. It's going to be 127, and then you can see 200, 197. So that's because we did 5 criticals, which means the second hit did a 50% extra damage, which is quite a lot of damage. It's almost, you're going to see not double, but it's quite a lot of extra damage. So in terms of damage to clear waves, decent, pretty decent. Let's try now the A2. Because I want to try the A1 when the enemies, none of them has weaken, because it's what I said before. If we do A1, because this champion already has a weaken, that is 2 turns, I'm not going to reapply that weaken, because the one he has is exactly the same as the one I'm going to place. So he's not going to do it. But we can see the A2. He's going to start kind of charging. We can see 137, 144. That's because the first hit already increased my attack by 5%. And in long battles like the Hydra, this is significant. I mean, it escalates slowly. Now we can try the A1. There's 4 enemies only. So with these 4 enemies, we're going to do A1. If we're able to place it, which I think we will, because all 4 of these enemies are from the corrupted faction. No, see, we only applied 1 here and 1 there, which means we didn't get the extra turn for free, but it's been already 3 turns, I think. We might be able to see his passive, see how he just procs a free attack. Oh, and here we can also see, I mean, I was going to say here we can also see how weak he is. He didn't die, but almost. And what happened is he just proc the mastery, he did a counter attack, and with the counter attack just smacked them. His A1, his basic attack, his A1 hits pretty hard. It hits surprisingly hard. Let's go with the dragon, double hit, 56, 89, not bad. We are not applying any weaken. We're not applying decreased defense here. For some reason, it resisted it, okay? But we are gonna see here, I think, the free attack, because it's gonna be his 5th turn. So we're gonna do a 2, which is just double hitter. 1. No, this is the 1-2 that we saw. The first hit was the 5th. So the first hit was the AoE, able to apply weaken, and the second hit and the third hit was his A2. So we've seen, I think, to around 200 and something in terms of damage. Let's try to hit him with, for example, the same A1 as before, 103. So his A1 is pretty powerful. His A2 requires a bit to kind of, you know, start the ball rolling, and the A3 is not bad, but it's going to depend a lot on the enemies. 140, 180, only we did 1 critical, so only a 10% extra damage. And I think here we're going to be able to see now counter attack, almost 200k counter attack with the A1, not bad. We're going to be able to see the A2 again, and we can compare with the first hit, but you can see that he's hitting by a lot more. Almost 300k, almost 600k between A1 and A2. And this is because he's already charging, he's already increasing his attack, he's already increasing A1, we're already on the 200k. I mean, he's increasing his own attack, which means every hit is going to be hitting harder and harder up to a 50%. So in that sense, he's going to be working pretty nicely in long battles. Let's exit here. Let's try him, for example, on... where could he say him? Arena, maybe? Even though, I mean, he's not really an arena champion, but we could see him on arena, see if someone put any defense that is reasonable. Maybe this one. We are gonna replace this guy for THOLIN. Here it is. See how well is he able to hit regular enemies on arena? He doesn't ignore Stone Skin, so in that sense it's a bit of a shame. Here probably I might be able to put on lockdown. Perfect. See, for example, just a counter attack of Mario's hit him for 34k. This champion is not from the Corrupted Alliance, so this is going to be, I'd say, his biggest weakness. He's really weak because I guess on the game design he was thought to, okay, he's going to be a specialist or really good in fighting demons in that sense, any corrupted. What happens in reality is that not all the enemy teams are full corrupted, which means he's going to be taking a lot of damage from a lot of champions that are not necessarily corrupted. So that is a bit of a hit and miss. If we want to use him on arena, then maybe it would be wise to think in some more tanky build using Stone Skin, because at least that will allow him to save some turns to survive until it's his turn, and when it's his turn, then he'll be able to actually unleash the power. But to be honest, I don't think is the way to go. I mean, yeah, he hits hard, but I would say it's more worth putting some sort of PvE build instead of trying to go the arena route, because we have so many arena champions, so many good arena champions, that is a bit of a, I don't know, I would say waste of champion, but not really. A place which is really interesting, which is he's also actually pretty good, is the Chimera. Not the Chimera, no, the Hydra. However, I'm not going to show you full key because I've already done that. I've already filmed it for my other channel, for the Spanish channel. And here you can see the setup, which I'm going to just press play. I mean, there's nothing important. I was just explaining pretty much the same guide, but in Spanish. But here we can see, for example, when is THOLIN's turn. And I think they just cleaned themselves, sadly. But we're going to be able to see some hits, so you get an idea of how much he's maxed just in the early rounds of the battle. I'm not sure if I'm going to show it in the beginning, but basically the longer the battle, the more he's going to be able to charge his A2. In this case, you can see we did the jump. We're on turn 53. Here you can see it. Well, I'm covering it a bit. I'm going to put myself blocking my other past self so you don't have two copies of me. But basically, you can see here turn 53, 107 million. Here I'm going to show you the A2. We have an enemy that only has decreased defense, doesn't have weaken, but the damage is pretty decent. I mean, turn 53, he had a couple of turns to charge himself, and here we can see double hitter, 850 and 987. So almost 2 million. I've seen him hitting by 1.2, 1.3 million. Depending on the enemy, of course, you need to have decreased defense, it needs to have weaken, but he's quite able to do a lot of damage. He's not going to do as much damage as Thor, because Thor, when he unleashes the fifth turn, here you can see double hitters, 600k AoE to cut heads. Thor is going to be more powerful, I would say, in that sense. He hits harder. You don't know how many times the A1 is going to proc, so there's a lot of potential and damage there. And his A2 hits really hard, and his A3 also hits pretty hard. So all in all, I mean, these 2 millions is Ashnar. Ashnar also is another beast. But as you can see, he deals decent damage. Not as decent as Thor, not as powerful as Thor, but decent damage. However, I'm gonna jump all the way to the end. You can see this is about the end of the battle, 352 million. This is Nightmare Hydra, by the way. In this case, I saw that he has pretty much the same exact problem as Thor, and it's gonna depend a lot on what champions are you bringing to this dungeon. The situation, what happens here is that there's two Hydra heads that are able to place reflect damage. THOLIN, because of his passive and the Hydra being a boss, they're not gonna be able to crit hit on me. I mean, they're not gonna be able to do critical hits on THOLIN. However, there's 2 Hydra heads that are able to place reflect damage. If we don't manage to cleanse it, or if we don't manage to apply block buffs to all the heads, in my case I only have Lydia able to apply block damage, block buffs, and then trying to spread it with Ashnar, which this is great and works great if I'm doing the keys in manual, this works every time, but when I'm doing it in auto, it's likely that they won't have this interaction and they won't do it perfectly, and that THOLIN will be hitting heads with reflect damage. His issue or his problem is like, because he hits quite hard, that block damage also is gonna come back to him and it's gonna kill him, and he's gonna spend a lot of time dead in the battle, especially in Hydra auto battles. So this is probably the biggest con I've seen. He's really weak because he's designed to deal a lot of damage. Here you can see 100k across the board. I mean, it's not bad at all in terms of damage. Here you can see the final key around 369. This was full auto. Hydra Pesadilla means nightmare, and half an hour, like I said, full auto. I didn't touch it, and I did see him dying quite a couple of times. We can see THOLIN 61 millions, he did, so not too bad, 61 millions. Ashnar obviously much harder, and Gizmak and Marius also contributing with their bit. However, for not being fully ascended, not having the top relic, his damage is quite decent. I'm sure with the 5 stars, 4 stars and putting blessings, his damage can probably equal Ashnar, but I would say in the same equality, in the same set, same skill, same mastery, same blessings, everything, Thor out damages him. I'm not sure by how much, but I have the feeling, I have the certainty that Thor hits a bit harder, but he does a pretty good job. He's a pretty solid champion. I think all in all, with that, we cover everything there's to say about this guy, how to gear him, where is he most used for, at least where am I going to use him. I think it's a pretty worth to go for fusion. The champion is good, especially if you didn't go for Thor, you don't have him. If you have him, then you never know when is he going to be useful. We don't know if there's going to be any other places. I mean, there's another place where I haven't shown him, but I think the situation as it is now is pretty freaking hard, and that is on the new dungeon. Basically, stage 29, I mean, I have a setup, I can farm it, it's not like that, it's not with him, it's basically something like this, just exploding waves, and removing these 2. I mean, we can try it, it's not gonna work on the number 29, but something like a 23, for example. If we just one-shot the waves, let me do some stuff here. You out. Then we put, for example, a Wukong that it has a free revive, and we put THOLIN. Here he's gonna have more advantage because THOLIN, I mean, none of these champions are gonna be able to do hard hits on him, and he's not gonna have critical damage. But, and what am I looking for? Well, we can put Note, for example, see what he does. And I think this setup should be more or less doable. Let me give it a quick try, because he's actually quite good against this faction. The problem, or against this dungeon. The problem comes when we have, I'm gonna say, are they gonna kill me? Here we hit the boss, 114 damage, max HP damage. Here we kill the boss, and here the party starts. We're gonna be able to see that he is not gonna receive too much. Well, he did receive too much damage. 50k is quite a lot. I'm gonna leave it full auto, see what happens. But essentially, this is, like I said, his biggest issue in that sense, that he's really weak, and unless we're able to protect him somehow, even if the enemies are not critting, certain bosses like this one are gonna smack. If we manage to keep him alive, then he's gonna deal pretty good damage, he's gonna do it pretty decent, but like I mentioned, we need to be able to kind of allow him to do that. And of course, the higher the difficulty, the crazier this is going to be, and the harder this is going to be. And if the boss is kind of one-hitting us level 20 something, level 30, he's definitely going to do it. So he's not going to be very viable, at least for the latest stage. It's not part of the meta. So here we can see 113, 114. He hits pretty much as much. See, triple hitter, it just kills him. 30k, 40k, I mean, it's a damage dealer attack base. I'm not gonna put 50k, 60, 70k, 4000k defense on him, because is not his job to tank hits. His job is to deal damage. And you could see in that one turn that he had that at least his damage output was pretty much or very similar to Nuts A3. And Nuts A3 is hitting by a lot, even less, 102, 90 something. So he hits by a lot as well, not necessarily a scaling of max HP. Stage 23, you can see they're able to clear it, but probably not thanks to him. I think he's gonna benefit a lot from blessings, he's gonna benefit a lot from, I don't know, other stuff you might add. But I'd say, despite this, if you want a champion able to clear waves in a very similar way of Thor, if you're looking for a damage dealer for Hydra in a very similar way of Thor, THOLIN would be, and not pun intended, small version of him. Slightly worse, but also has a lot of potential of damage. That's all from my side today. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned a bit about this guy and you made up your mind if you're going for him or not. If you are, please leave a comment down there if you managed to get to the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.